Tá mis sásta bheith an seo agus fáilú go ginearálta le cadtar a rá ag an ara ach níl sé mór an difriúil le cad a bhí a rá ag an ara an seachtain Secáte agus an seachtain Ribhe sin agus tá aspa ólas fós an seo maidir leis an scéim seo tá an tara a chur a fáil do bhíúil seo thugan. Agus measan bhfuil Eán Búirt idir tuismóirí agus páistí freisin maidir leis an aspa ólas sin agus tá sé sin ag dul thar an Búirt agus an trína chéile agus an strus atá ar fáistí agus ar clunne le tríhí inús de bhór an galar down de seo an COVID-19. Tuis nachfuil na páistí a fáil an scoíochta agus seirbhísí sláinte freisin agus an lá an cadrmh sin atá acu lena chuid cáirde agus lena chuid múntóirí agus leis na daoine eile oibríonn leis na páistí sin. So these students have been without the full experience since early March, and I accept that many teachers, SNA schools and parents have gone above and beyond what's required in terms of the digital side of things. Even where this has happened, this is not a full replacement for the normal school environment. Now, on a number of occasions, the Minister has asked teachers and SNAs to come forward in relation to this. Can I just ask the Minister briefly, and I'll come back then in, how many have come forward so far?
As you'll be aware, Deputy, this is a voluntary scheme. It always was voluntary. The July programme was voluntary. So it depends on demand. So obviously, once we announce the guidelines on Friday, there will be an opportunity for the parents in the first instance to register with the department. That's the most fundamental part of this proposal which we're doing. And it's a scaled up proposal. It's not based on July provision last year for 10,000 students. We're looking at doubling that. We're looking at going a stage further, being more inclusive, but the detail of that will be on Friday. And I think the information that everybody will want, particularly the parents, is not just to know what's available, how they get it, but also how they plan their summer around that. So that information will be available on Friday.
Can I ask you briefly, your speech says, where possible, some expanded provision to include other children with significant special education needs should be included. Now, that's different to what you've just said there now, in the sense that you want a vastly increased number of children availing of this, but your written speech, the official provided, doesn't make that as clear as what you've said.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, we can continue to have the conversation about here what you're looking for, the information as the parents are looking for this Friday. This Friday, we will have the guidelines. I'm bringing it to Cabinet. We will have the final guidelines and details. But it will be an expanded scheme. And as you know, last week I announced that I want to include Down syndrome. And Down syndrome will be included in it. We're also looking at incorporating school completion, for example. We're also looking at expanding the literacy and numeracy programme that we have in 70 primary schools, in JESH schools. We're looking to expand that and also looking to expand it into the post-primary. So we're looking at a massive increase in the capacity of this scheme, but it will rely on the volunteerism of schools and from teachers. But from the soundings and from the leadership that we're getting from the likes of the CPSMA and from the likes of the INTO and for the likes of the PPN at a primary school level, the indications is quite strong that a lot of goodwill and good feeling towards this programme, but ultimately we have to know what the demand is so parents will have that opportunity on Friday to register.
Margaret, Ara, and I think it's very important that on Friday you will confirm that the same aims and objectives, in addition to the other objectives of the July provision scheme, are there. And it has to be said that addressing the shortfall in special education needs for all children with special needs, and particularly for those with disadvantage, must be an absolute priority for the current government and next. I think what has happened here in the last 3 months hasn't been the fault of the government, but it is on top of reduced provision and not enough provision in general for students with special education needs in this country, where their constitutional rights to education have not been vindicated. I do want to raise just two other issues briefly with the Minister, and I hope he take cognizance of them. I welcome what he's saying about the Leaving Cert. That seems to be going relatively smoothly. But just on the reopening of schools, Minister, you said that you'd be updating Cabinet on Friday. Now, with respect, Minister, the Cabinet is the decision-making body of which you're a member, but I mean, updating is for the Dáil, where you are accountable. So we represent the parents and the children. It's for you to update us today so we can then tell the parents. If the Cabinet makes the decisions, they don't get updates. So I'd like you to update us on that. And also I would ask you, and I said this to you privately, Minister, I would like you to make a declaration that schools should, where possible, when public health allows it, if that's in the new term, have some type of graduation or progression ceremony for 6th class in particular, leaving schools, and 6th year. Some are doing it, but some are not. And I think it would help if the Minister made a national announcement just to encourage this. Sorry.
Yeah, but I think I want to respond to that.
Okay.
Like, Deputy, you were here last week when I stood here and I said we will be back in again next Wednesday, and I'll be bringing a detailed submission and guidelines to Cabinet on Friday. That hasn't changed. I can't determine when I'm in here, when I'm not in here. I'm absolutely delighted to be back in here. And today is an opportunity for you as representatives of your communities and your constituencies to put forward advice as to who you want to see included. Because, Deputy, you know that on Friday we'll have the guidelines. You know that on Friday we're going to have a roadmap for the opening of schools in September and August. You know these things. So there's no point coming in here making a song and dance about, oh, lack of information, or we don't have this or we don't have that. You already know that. And it's important that we're clear. And I will continue to engage here. But today, you know, I see all the same faces back here again, and I look around, the people who are making constructive suggestions, and I know they will again today as well. Thank you.